The Mindset Scorecard and the Business Podcast Gold graphic are two of the most powerful tools that we use at the podcast partnership. And I want to share them with you today because they are powerful in producing the ideal podcast. And more importantly, they are the exact tools you need to understand what needs to happen to have a fantastic podcast come out on the other side of what it is that you're doing. I spoke in the last episode of my interview with Dave Jackson about the Mindset Scorecard. And this is a thing that we're going to be hitting over the next couple of weeks, actually 8 of them to be exact. And these are the different ways that we think about podcasting at the podcast partnership. And if you want to get a copy of the Mindset Scorecard, or you want to get a copy of the Podcast Gold graphic, if you head out to headsuptuesday.com, that's Heads Up Tuesday, like it sounds, all one word, .com. That is the new weekly newsletter. And the first thing that will happen, actually, it's a reboot of the old weekly newsletter that so many of you loved. If once you sign up for that, you get access to our resource list, and these graphics and a bunch of others are in there as well. So again, if you want to get a copy of the Mindset Scorecard or the Business Podcast Gold graphic, head out to headsuptuesday.com, sign up, and that'll be the first thing that comes to you. So the first thing, let's chat about the Mindset Scorecard for a second here. And the Mindset Scorecard is a simple scorecard, and you can see it partially here on the screen. If you listen to the audio, just head out to Heads Up Tuesday. And it's 8 mindsets that we follow here at the partnership that help you understand how well it is that you are doing, what you know about podcasting. If we match mindsets, because that's where things happen. And the first mindset is the concept of podcast gold. And in the Mindset Scorecard, you basically can score between 1 and 12. This is a concept from Strategic Coach. You've heard me chat about them many times. And the concept of 1 or 12, basically 1, 2, and 3 is the really low score. 4, 5, and 6 is the lower of the middle score. 7, 8, and 9 is the higher of the middle score. And then 10, 11, 12 means we're perfectly aligned. And that first idea of podcast gold. So let's chat about podcast gold for a second here. I'll put it up on the screen for those of you watching the screen. And again, if you're listening to the audio version of this, no problem. Just head out to headsuptuesday.com. The idea of Business Podcast Gold is quite simply that you get gold when the business goal intersects with the avatar interest, which intersects with the engaging content. All 3 of these things have to come together. If you have a business goal and avatar interest, but the content isn't engaging, we jokingly call that the looks good on paper. There are so many podcasts, you've tried them. Business got in line and the avatar is interested, but the content's lousy. Looks good on paper. Now, maybe the avatar is interested, and the avatar is just a fancy name. Maybe the avatar is interested and the content is engaging, but it doesn't match the business goals. Well, in a couple of years, someone's going to go, well, a couple of months, maybe a year at the most. Someone in the money department's going to go, why are we doing this? And of course, if the goal is there and the content's there, but your audience isn't interested, a lot of podcasts like that, that's called the money suck. And basically, when you bring all 3 of these together, you get podcast gold, and that's where the money is. And the money is not in selling ads. The money is not in getting sponsorships and that type of thing. It's when you bring all these 3 things together and serve your audience. So we look at the lowest rank in podcast gold. It is, I'd like to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. There are a number of people who, microphone isn't that much. I can get cheaper free hosting, and I want to interview some cool people. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that's just a bad idea in a lot of things, especially podcasting. As the numbers get higher and higher, you want to have a strategy. You want to have a plan. And the thing is, seeing what sticks is kind of an interesting strategy if you find yourself in a position of actually strategizing. But if it's just, barfing out content and seeing what happens, you're not going to get anywhere. A lot of people like that. And if you're on that end, we don't have the same mindset. And that's just a good declarative statement. In a business use, I'd say, therefore, we probably don't want to work together. But since this is the free podcast report, it's just kind of an idea to understand where you're at. Now, the next level of the Mindset Scorecard is this idea that one day soon I will make money from my podcast. We have a lot of people who kind of think that way, and they're kind of like, well, we're putting some stuff up. It'll be strategic. We'll track the numbers. When the numbers get to a certain place, I will make some money, but it's far down the line. One day soon. There's not a line on the calendar. There's not a specific idea or that kind of thing. That's the one day soon. That's the 4, 5, and 6 on the scorecard. Again, you can grab your scorecard at headsuptuesday.com. The monetization strategy for my podcast will emerge one day is a little bit higher up. This is where we're starting to come to the same strategy. And they realize that it's not just I'm going to get ads or I'm going to get a sponsor or Spotify is going to buy me, that the monetization strategy will emerge. And that's only going to happen when you understand and track what your audience is doing and you're looking at the numbers and you're tracking the stats and doing all these things. So, that one's not so bad. I'm kind of fine with that. But the one I really like, the one that really sets everything we do here, the network at the partnership is, if I'm not being strategic about my show, I'm not doing it. This is the process. This is the mindset, hence the scorecard, that we recommend you take on in looking for your podcast. If I'm not being strategic about my show, I'm not doing it. We're in an interesting time right now. At the time of this recording, we're in the who knows what part. We're in the COVID crisis. And we got to be strategic. We have to be smart. We have to do the right things. And the idea of just turning on a microphone, seeing what happens, throwing things up, seeing what happens, we don't have time for that. We don't have room for that. We shouldn't be doing that. So as you consider the first mindset, podcast gold, be strategic about it or don't do it. And the graphic of podcast gold is it's when those three things intersect. And if you don't know where those three things intersect, it's okay, because you can go to the best guess of where the three things intersect. And then you can actually find yourself in a situation where you look at what's working and you look at what's not working, and then you simply improve over time. That's what we call the profit response machine. But you want to be in a situation where you're tracking, you're doing it, and you're thinking about the strategy in the midst of all of this. Paul, what if I don't know? Start somewhere. Maybe this is why you bring on a consultant. Maybe this is why you bring on somebody who knows what they're doing. And again, a consultant is not someone who just knows how to make a podcast. A consultant is not someone who just knows how to get your audio up at Libsyn and then hope one day that the sponsorships come. A good consultant is the one who will help you be strategic about your show. So the Mindset Scorecard, I promised in the last episode with Dave Jackson that we were going to take a look at that. And we are. The next 7 episodes will be about that. First one's podcast gold. How deep are you in podcast gold? I'd love to hear. Thepodcastreport.com/Twitter /Facebook /Instagram /YouTube. Those are all the social media places. Would love to hear what you think. Would love to hear what you're doing. Next session, we will chat about podcast seasons, an idea that came from Michael Hyatt, but that has been fully embraced by a good chunk of the industry, including Apple. And it's not just a cool thing. It's a real strategy for making your podcast intelligently, correctly, looking for that podcast gold. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to grab this on any of your podcast platforms, you can. We're at Apple. We're at forgetting all the rest of them. We're at Apple, we're at Google, we're at Pandora. Soon we'll be at Amazon, apparently. We're at all those places. Grab it, subscribe. When the next one comes out, it will come directly to you. Thank you so much for listening. And for those of you who grabbed this on Facebook, thank you so much for watching. We'll chat with you soon. Be strategic. Check yourself on the Mindset Scorecard. Headsuptuesday.com. We'll get all that to you. Chat with you soon. Bye.